I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, and I'm located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Wheel Talk. We would love some more interaction with you all throughout this future episodes, and we would love to hear some listener questions. They may get on the episode.
Yeah, just submit them to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you can submit them on our Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast. Thanks. Oh, okay.
Started.
We're live.
We are.
Ryan, you have a lovely voice.
Nobody hears that except when I talk to my cat. And Rachel. Rachel, of course, hears it.
And of course, yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was telling you earlier that I had a stressful day, but it's just one of those days where if you know me, you know I overcommit to stuff, and I have a lot of stuff on my plate all the time.
You never.
So it was like hitting me with all the things I've got to like get done, and it's like I need to focus on doing work right now, like my 9-to-5 job that I get paid for, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this, and then I'm like, but I got to like package an order so that I can get it out, and I've got to like reply to this person, or I've got to, figure out scheduling and time to meet with this person later this week, and it's just like so many things that pile on. It's like, ugh. It's like, what can I delegate? What can I not delegate? And it's just like a lot of stuff. So
I did nothing today. Maybe all of my normal stuff went to you.
Apparently.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you, like, the way I try to mitigate a lot of that is to not keep too many things in my court that I need to take care of. It's more like replying to stuff in so that the ball's in somebody else's court.
Yeah.
But I have so many balls coming at me that I can't keep hitting them back over.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to juggle all of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, here's our not our trivia, but today. Oh, like I said, I did nothing, so I literally did nothing today. No. I had a nail in my tire, so I went to Les Schwab and got it fixed. And that was it. Oh, and I ran away from my shop because I was like sitting there, and I was right after I got my tire, and then I was sitting kind of away from the shop where nobody would notice that my car was there. And then I saw the FedEx truck go by. And then I got an alert on my phone that said forced entry, because he probably like knocked and woke it up and like the alarm went off. But then there was like a member there at the studio, and I could have gone over there and helped, but I watched and then I drove away. And so that's what happened. But it was only 2 boxes, so it was fine. And he kind of knows the way to do it now, so. Okay, and then here's our fun fact of the day. Fun fact of the day, I just moved over. Actually, this isn't even all the episodes. I just moved over episode 1 to 40.
1, 2, and 40.
No. 1
through 40.
Through 40 episodes of the podcast that we've been doing. First of all, that's pretty cool. We've done 43 episodes.
That's nuts.
And I ran out of space on my computer, so I'm transferring them over to a external hard drive, and there's 146.94 gigabytes from episode 1 to episode 40.
496?
146.
146, sorry.
It's actually 147, but yes.
147 gigs.
Yeah, so that's kind of some weird info.
Yeah.
Takes up a lot of
Luckily,
gigabits.
she has a hard drive.
I do. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive.
This is an all Becca issue because I do none of the editing, so this is all her.
Mm-hmm. That's my job. I'm the editor. So, what is our question for today? Oh, well, the question came as an email this morning.
Yeah, and Becca replied quickly.
I did.
So, this question came from Ashley Gyrone? Girone. She said, I hope this message finds you both well. I have recently discovered your podcast and have been binge listening to the series. It's been so informative and fun. Thank you for producing such great ceramics podcast. I guess I didn't really need to read that part, but
you didn't, but that's okay.
Little review and question one. Thanks for that. I have a question that could be of interest for the show. I am working to transition from working out of a community studio to a studio at home out of my garage. One problem I am foreseeing is that I do not live nearby any source of ceramic supply stores, so I need to consider ordering clay directly from a supplier. However, I'm finding shipping costs for clay to be much higher than I anticipated. Are there any tricks to the trade when ordering clay? Would love to hear if either of you have some experience with this. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
So, what was your reply? I know you replied back to her, but
I did.
Yeah, we wanted to share for other people that might be going through this.
Yeah, because I try to reply like right when we get it, because this episode won't be going out for another week or two, so I want to make sure that she has her answer before,
Yeah.
before. So Ryan lives near his supplier.
Yeah, I have like 4 suppliers that I could probably buy
Like
from.
right near. Also, on a question like this, try to also, if you want more help, I'm totally willing to help with questions like these. I actually love these kind of questions. Include where you're from, because there might be a chance that I know somebody or one of us knows somebody from around that area. So, and then we can kind of reach out and ask questions about that too. But anyway, I was going to say I live 3 hours round trip from my supplier, so it's not technically close. It's not super far away. I go down and get larger orders once every couple weeks. It sounds like this person is so far that that's not like the case, unless so far means 2 or 4 hours, whatever. But
I just looked up her Instagram. It looks like she's in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh,
So
Atlanta should have some.
she's on Instagram at Gyrone.ceramics, Girone.ceramics.
This is
So
why we're a team.
If people know places in Atlanta area,
Let us know.
yeah, I mean, what close could be for her might be like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
For you, an hour and a half is what you have to do to go to your supplier, or that's the preferred supplier that you have is an
Right.
hour and a half from you. So
Yeah, and to me that's pretty close. I grew up in Colorado, so it's like we had to drive everywhere to get anything. But what I would say is, one, if you have to ship it, order large quantities so that you only have to pay shipping once, and kind of like binge, like, get as much clay as you can, and then use that clay over time. It doesn't really go bad. You can usually ask if they have like a softer batch to send you that, and you can store it in your garage or someplace like that. I know Josh orders like a pallet at a time, and it lasts him like 3 or 4 months because he's not anywhere near a clay supplier. He's like 2 to 3 hours away.
3 hours from one, yeah.
I think it's 2 because Indianapolis is like, I think it took me like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to his house from the supplier because I picked him stuff up.
Yeah.
So there's so I'm adding another option in. So one is, if you're gonna ship it in, buy a full pallet, because the shipping is gonna be cheaper on a full pallet than if you were to do like for.
What's this? What's the weight of a full pallet?
It's a lot, but they usually charge. I think Rebecca pays like, I don't know, like 100 and something for a pallet to be shipped. Which, if you're adding that into the cost of your clay, is probably like, you're probably at, I don't know. I think
Instead
a
of
pallet's
50
like
cents a pound,
2,000
it's like
pounds.
75 cents a pound or 60 something cents a pound once you add in the shipping to your cost.
Right. So it's not going to be that much once you add in the whole shipping. So what you can do with that pallet is A, you can split it up between all of your friends. B, you can store it for all yourself and then just get one pallet. I think Ashley does that too from cuz she lives out in the middle of nowhere in
Bowled over
Colorado.
ceramics,
Yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a way to do it, is to buy the whole pallet and then, just buck up the cost and just don't get clay for the whole year if you have to. Or she had mentioned that she was coming from a community studio. So what that says to me is that if you're coming from a community studio, they have to buy clay from somewhere. So if you talk to them and say, hey, can I tack on a few things of clay when you do your order and buy it directly from their supplier? Like, if somebody came to me and was like, hey, I can't get clay, can you bring up clay for me? I'd be like, yeah, no problem. Like, charge them $5 or whatever for the service fee. If it was a bunch of money, I might charge them a little bit more. But if they called, Tacoma, where I get my clay, and was like, hey, can you add this much clay to this order? And I would just go down and pick it up. I would have no problem with that. I don't know what other people think about that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
But that's another option.
And you do need to think about how much, if you are traveling somewhere to get clay, think about how much your car capacity can actually tow.
That's my next one.
So if you're,
That's my next.
Okay.
Okay, so second option is talking to your previous studio and saying, hey, where do you get your clay? And is there any way I could call in and get it delivered with your clay so that it costs less? Third option is, if it's 2 hours away, 4 hours away, whatever, once every 2 months, rent or borrow a big van that's a 1-ton van or whatever, go down and get the clay and bring it back up. It might give you, like, bring a friend. It might be a fun trip,
Yeah.
So if it's, I would say if it's less than 4 hours away, that kind of a commute is no problem at all. So,
Depends on your situation, I guess.
Yeah.
Whether you're willing to drive like that. I feel like it's similar to, with the investment of how much you're buying, I feel like it's similar to like going and buying a mattress somewhere. I don't know if people do that anymore, but like shopping for a car that you're willing to drive 2 or 3 hours to go see and buy somewhere, or, getting a pet or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people drive 2 and 3 hours to go get certain things. I feel like clay is kind of in that realm when you're spending that much money for something.
Mm-hmm. And
if you don't want to pay that much to ship, then
right. And I've borrowed vans to go down and get clay before, and usually people have something and you can say, hey, can I borrow your van, or rent a U-Haul for the day. That's still cheaper than shipping sometimes, so that's probably what I would suggest.
And you mentioned the thing about going in with the studio to add clay to their order.
Yeah.
You could also just, if they already get 2,000 pounds at a time or whatever, you can just say, hey, can I buy clay from you directly?
Yeah, that's also an option.
They can maybe go up to the next level of their clay that they get. Maybe they normally get 2,000 pounds. Maybe they can get 4,000 pounds if you're going to already buy 500 pounds of that. And they just, they get it at, I don't know what the real number would be, but like $16 a box, and they're going to sell it to you for $18 a box or whatever. So they're going to make a little bit of money on it, but you're still going to be paying less than if you're buying it, retail price at $25 a box or $24 a box or whatever.
Right. So yeah, I sell a lot of clay to students at cost. So,
I'm sure there's other potters in the Atlanta area that you could either team up with to split a pallet or something, maybe. I mean, it's a little weird because you're dropping like $400 and $600 for clay or $800 or whatever. So it's a little bit, you got to make sure you're getting your money covered with people are paying and handle and pick up and can actually like physically get it if you need to pick it up. So, but yeah, there's some options there.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
if she's in Atlanta, Georgia, I just looked it up, and there's a supplier off of Peachtree Road in Atlanta. So yeah.
What's it called?
Davins Ceramic Center, Davens. Yeah, so I mean, just do a little research too, a little bit of research. I mean, there might be one that's closer to you that you didn't even know about. So
Yeah, I see it too.
Yeah, and I mean, you could not be in Atlanta, Georgia. We're just shooting. You know, Ryan could be wrong, and he could have found the wrong person. So
I'm pretty sure it's the right person, but
whatever. So anyway, yeah. So that's kind of what I would recommend in regards to clay. Quantity is usually cheaper than getting like 2 bags at a time. So,
Definitely.
and while you're in the transition stage, kind of see how much you can throw a day, and then you can calculate how much you'll need a week, and then you can calculate how much you need a month, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So.
We have, I think, 2 episodes on like transitioning from community studios to home studios, and other episodes about like improving your home studio and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I don't even know if we talk about finding clay, but that was a good question. I would have.
yeah.
I don't really wouldn't have really thought about that because.
Yeah, it's one of those you're like, oh, it doesn't relate to me as much because I have 4 options locally, and your option is an hour and a half away, but you probably have 2 or so within that distance, right? You can go.
I have 2 options. Yeah, but I don't use Seattle pottery, so supply.
Yeah.
I've heard they have new owners, which is good to
Yeah.
hear. But
All right. So what are we talking about today?
oh yes, we are. Well, this is funny because Ryan was trying to figure out what we were going to talk about, and he was like, "What is giving in to the man?" And he thought it was talking about taxes. It is not.
Her point in our notes thing was how to give in to the man and feel okay about it.
Yeah. No, that's not taxes.
And I didn't know what that meant. I thought that meant like realize that you got to pay taxes. But
No.
I don't know. Or like whatever. But
Nope. So, giving in to the man, Becca's definition of it is essentially using other means to make items and to sell items and be okay with it. The most common and basic like definition of this would be like how Becca buys from China and buys from a company that buys from China and sells it as ceramic ware instead of pouring my own molds and all the things, right?
yeah. Or wheel throwing all of your bisqueware so that you can get people to paint on it.
Right.
And making a profit from that.
Yeah, like somebody else makes it and I just buy it and I mark it up and I make more money that way than I do the other way. Not because it costs me less money to make it, because I take less time to make it. All I have to do is click purchase, and then it ships to me, and all we have to do is unpack it. And so so we're talking, so this whole, hopefully the episode will be about how different ways you can use other people for stuff that you need to do, and having no shame in the fact that sometimes saving money means not doing it yourself and having somebody else do it. Sometimes your talents or what you're doing is more valuable if you do that part and somebody else does the stuff that anybody can do, like weighing out clay or unpacking boxes.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
Or it relates to clay. You could go out and dig your own clay if you want.
You could.
And process it and do all that stuff if you enjoy it, if that's part of your business and you really want to kind of go to that traditional route of how that process starts from the clay. You can go and dig your own clay. Most people buy bags of clay from companies, and there's no shame in that.
No.
I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be digging. I don't want to do all of that upfront work. I just want to grab stuff out of a bag and throw it on the wheel, and off we go.
And there's no shame in buying glazes. Some people buy glazes, A huge example of that is John the Potter uses, is it Amico or Mako? Mako. And not only, he has some great glazes. And so, that, like, I have some glazes that are store-bought. You have some glazes that are store-bought. Sometimes buying the glaze, even though it's a little bit more expensive, is something that helps the process you do become easier, and therefore it saves you money because of time and investment and stuff. Now, I would argue that it is good to learn how to make glazes. It's always good to have that base knowledge, but there's nothing wrong with, especially Susie, that, is 75 years old, that wants to make pottery and just doing it for the fun of it. There's nothing wrong with Susie just buying glaze from Mako. Nothing.
Right.
And because this is, after all, a lot of people use pottery as a therapeutic hobby. There's no point in making it annoying.
Yeah, it's not like you're not a real potter if you don't mix your own glazes. You're not a real potter if you don't dig your own clay.
Yeah.
You're not a real potter if you don't use a kick wheel, if you use electricity.
Right. We're not playing that game.
There's so many steps along the way. You've got to find ways to be efficient. You can't spend endless time doing every single part of the process.
Right.
Yeah. And you might take it as a challenge too. You might be like, "Oh, I've got this clay and it's just so damn expensive. I want to find an alternative." And maybe that's where you test you already know how to mix glazes, but you want to actually learn how to make a matte green glaze.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where you talk to some people that have knowledge about glazing and how you put together a good glaze, or you find a glaze recipe that looks good, but you want to adjust the color of it to get it the color you want. Maybe you go that route, or you look up some glazes that are comparable and come up with something to save you some money. Maybe as you're that far in the process, it's worth the time for you to invest into saving money.
Right. And on the real extreme point is also, I think that there is a fair amount of shame within the pottery community, if people shaming, not shame, but people shaming other people for making choices to elevate their businesses, and that's bullshit at the very core of it. Let's say somebody is already a successful potter and they make pieces, and then they choose to branch out and sell something, and that happens to be made in China, or they don't make it, they import it from someplace, or they use another person that makes it and they import it from there, and then they essentially are retailing it or reselling it. There's nothing wrong with that. We are business people, and our goal is to make money. If you
want to be profitable and you want to at least break even and hopefully make a profit. Why is profit such a bad word?
Profit is not a bad word. Not that I see it very much, but it's not a bad word. But yeah, I just thought I'd say that. And I'm not pointing to anybody specific. My best friend buys stuff from China and sells it. He tried to find a potter, ceramic person in the United States that did what he wanted to be done, and he couldn't find one, so he went to China. And he still does all the design work and all the things, and it's totally fine. And not only that, but we've both learned a lot about the way that they make stuff over in China. And he's lucky he has a potter as a best friend who who guides him in what products that he needs. But yeah, there's, you're still supporting somebody local and in the United States, and yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, one thing that I buy wholesale that I started buying recently were the air plants.
Yeah.
So I had probably 200 or 300 of these shot glasses that were sitting around in the springtime.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to go for art shows. Those shot glasses are fun at art shows and stuff. No art shows in sight. COVID killed that. So I had to figure out a way. I mean, I didn't have to. I could have just let them sit there and wait until art shows and do nothing with them. I was like, thinking of creative solutions. How can I sell these online that would make it easy to, appeal to a wide range of people?
Yeah.
So people love plants, and I was like, hey, there's a plant wholesaler. You can hear all the whatever in the background.
Yeah.
Or is that you? That's me.
I think it's you.
It's me. And I was looking up from some wholesale plant options for air plants, and I've never had air plants before. I've never owned any. I don't see that many around or whatever, but people like plants. They were easy. They fit in my little shot glasses. I bought maybe 20 or 30 to start, and it just kind of went from there. So I got like 3 varieties. I kind of learned how to water them. I learned about how all the good things for owning them, and kind of tested the waters with photographing them, giving the customer options for buying a specific plant style they liked and a specific pot color they liked, and like they sold really well. I don't know how many I sold, but I mean I probably sold 60 or 100 of them or something, 60, 80, I don't know. But like they were such good sellers when I started selling them online, and like I feel no shame in buying these wholesale plants for $1 a piece and factoring them in with my shot glasses. So I normally retail the shot glasses for $7, and I was selling the shot glass with the planter for $12. So I was making $4 on that air plant.
Right.
And $12 is still super reasonable for a plant and a planter that's being shipped to you.
Yeah.
Like that's still super cheap. So so that's an example of one thing that I started buying. I mean, I could have just went and bought something locally too and bought some air plants for $3 to $5 a piece or whatever, and I wouldn't have made as much profit on it. But when these people are selling them wholesale, like they have a ton of them. They raise them well. They know how to get them to certain sizes. They have a good variety. And so that's kind of the route I went. What are some things besides your bisque stuff? Do you buy some things wholesale that you either pair with your stuff, or what about like your screens or something? Did you get those bought somewhere?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess that's a good example. I get my screens for like.
What are they? Are they silk screens? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
or is
they're like silk screens, and I get them locally from another person. I know a ton of people that print their own screens. Like, they still buy the screen from someplace else and they print them themselves. I don't know how to do that, and I trust my friends to do it a hell of a lot better than I do. So I have a friend that's a silk screener, like, professionally for 40 years. And so I get to buy the silk screen locally. And if you... okay, I'm gonna try and remember the name of the silkscreen company. It's called... I just had it in my brain. Don't you hate that? I hate that.
What's the silkscreen for? What do you use it for?
I use it
if people don't know what that's for.
Oh, I use it for transferring images onto clay. And you can also use it for transferring like underglaze onto bisque, but it's just a little bit harder to do it that way. So
it's just a filter. It's a filtered way to.
It's a
stencil.
stencil.
Like a stencil.
It's a stencil.
Stencil. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'll think of the name while we're talking, and then I'll say it randomly. But anyway,
Yeah.
then I get it printed locally, and I could print it myself. I could try to figure out how to do that, but I don't want to. So I have somebody else do it. It saves me a bunch of time, saves me a bunch of hassle for messing it up. They do it, and then all is
Pick your battles, people.
Pick your battles. That's what this episode
I
should
don't-
be called.
You don't want to be a silk screener and a glaze mixer and a bisque maker for your paint-a-pot. And I mean, you could make slips for every single one of your things that you have people paint with for your paint-a-pot. I mean, you just buy the bottles of underglaze or glaze or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, I use Mako Stroke and Coats, which is by far the worst name of glaze ever. And I use those, and I know, like, at the very beginning I was planning on like making my own underglazes and like not even buying them and just making my own, and I'm so glad that I went the alternate route because I can't even imagine doing it the other way. And so yeah,
It's one of those where you kind of bite the bullet and you just spend the money up front and you're just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just going to do this.
I remember the first day that I put in an order with Bisque Imports, which is who I get all my Bisque stuff from. And it was, I don't know, it was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I was sitting there and I was like, I just don't know. I said that I was always going to have everything American made. I'm not sure. And then my friend's like, Becca, shut up. She's like,
Was that your friend or was that
My friend.
somebody in the back of your head that
no,
said,
my friend said that. She's like, shut up, Becca. This is going to be great. People love turtles and unicorns and all these things. And so I put in an order for $500 of stuff, which I thought was so much. My recent order was $1,800. So that gives you some perspective. And, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And then nobody cared. I still have like standards, in my shop. I still have all of the like dinnerware is all mid-fire pieces that are all made in the United States. So that's like my compromise, I guess, because I wanted a lot of it to be made in the United States. But yeah, and also let's talk about moving on. Let's talk about how we both have somewhat types of employees. I have Reagan,
Yep.
and you have somebody.
I
And
have Megan and Alex.
and they do stuff for you that you just don't want to do. What are those things?
Right. So I only have so much time in the day. They mostly prep clay and mix glazes, sometimes adding slip to pieces that are going to be carved.
Yeah,
Those are the primary tasks that they would be doing.
right. And Reagan mixes clay and does most of the tasks up front for the paint your own pottery. So I can leave or I can do pottery while the shop's open, and she can take care of everything that goes in there. Hiring employees is just like that's not really giving in to the man. That's just normal. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, I have to do everything in my business.
It's more like giving into your own, I don't know if it's ego or your own, I don't know what the right word is, feeling like you're giving up parts of your process.
Right.
Integrity?
Maybe, I guess.
I don't know. Integrity of your...
Yeah.
Like the integrity of your pieces because it was not completely made by you. So you feel like you're giving up some of that. I don't know if that's the right word, but...
Yeah, like letting go. Letting go. I mean, production pot... Okay, so many people think that... I think that the stigma is like going away, but so many people in the art pottery world think that production pottery is like a cop-out. And it's not like artistic, which I would say it's not. But it's not like there's no personality to it. And it's like, oh, it doesn't matter because... Or it's not as valuable because other people do the work for you. Like,
You're
I
talking about production pottery studio like Rebecca Graves'
yeah.
studio or something like that, where there's 8 to 10 people producing work that gets signed off with Graves Co. at the end.
Exactly. Like having the stamp of the originator, like Rebecca Graves is the origin of Graves Co. pottery. Well, her name is actually Rebecca Prouse, but she was Rebecca Graves. and and so she's the origin, and so like she makes all of the original pieces and then somebody just copies what she makes. And a lot of people would be like, "Well, that's not your pottery. You didn't make that." And that's just such bull. It's such bull because yes, production potter doesn't have his own like style. If he is working for somebody, that doesn't mean that they don't have their own style by themselves, but you literally cannot do everything yourself. And if you want to have a successful business, you have to delegate like different aspects of your business to other people. I can't do everything myself. I have to give part of my business up to other people. And if I didn't, then I probably wouldn't be where I am. If I had given up more of it to other people, I'd probably be farther than where I am right now. But I just think that there's a lot of people that are like, wow, you have to do everything all yourself, And that's not true. Oh, ram presses. Ram presses. Do you know what a ram press is?
Yeah. There's a couple studios local to me that have them, that use them.
Yeah. Ram presses are usually a big sign of like people are like, "Oh, you're not a real potter if you use ram pressing." I'm like, "Bullshit, you're not."
Or that's like if you use a jig or something.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think that it's totally fine.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. There's different ways to make this stuff. You don't have to do all the same thing that everybody else does.
Yeah.
Like,
and also, I think that it's really cool to, East Fork Pottery has jigs and ram presses, and they've made this like super, super successful brand. And if you can't appreciate the fact that they use a ram press or a jig, appreciate the fact that they have the most incredible marketing in like all of pottery. Like they they've created something that they've been able to give part of the process to somebody else so that they've been able to focus on the part that actually gets you money, which is marketing. Because you can have a fantastic product, but that doesn't mean that you make tons of money. You have to be able to market yourself, and they've been able to do that because they've been able to give part of the process to somebody else. They have a bunch of employees. I don't know how many, but yes.
Right.
And somebody still has to make that first item. You don't.
Right.
You don't just make it by. Like, it's not just made by a machine. You still have to make it somehow.
Yeah, and if you still have parts of your process that you don't like doing, like maybe you don't want to fire stuff. It's fine to be in a community studio and you don't fire things because they take care of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in your own home studio and prepping your own clay, throwing every single piece, firing every single piece, loading every single kiln, doing all that stuff. You don't have to do every single thing in there.
Right.
If we're talking like, you can't say, "Oh, I'm not a professional because I don't fire my own kilns or whatever." I don't know. I just think you can still figure that stuff out, and then if you do want to take that on, you can.
You should know how to do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it.
Yeah.
But you should know how to do everything, I think. Especially if you say you're a professional. But yes.
Did you remember the name of that silkscreen thing?
Sherlock. Shurlock Fabrics. Or I don't know if it's fabrics at the end, but the reason they're called Sherlock is because they make a silkscreen frame, and then they have removable silkscreens, and they lock into place on the frame because they used to do silk screening, and so instead of using wood frames like they normally use, like most silk screens are wood frames and then they're stretched on and glued. Instead of doing that, they created this frame that was metal, and it has these grooves in there, and they lock in. And so you would only have to buy one frame if you had like... You'd only have to...
That's cool.
Yeah, you'd only have to buy one frame. Now, you might have like 20 different screens for that same size, but you only have to buy one frame. And then they also sell this like machine that like hooks it in. You have to use like a certain machine to hook it in. But since I live in the same town that they're made, I just go over there. and they hook it in for me. But I bought the frame. The frame was like $25. And the silkscreen was like... the silk screen, I think they are like $15 a piece. So if you have a lot of them, it's a lot cheaper. Because if I was gonna buy, because I buy the silk screens and then I cut them out after they're printed, and then I cut all the pieces out. Not everybody does that, but if I was gonna buy multiple screens, they'd be like $50 a piece. And instead, I just had to buy one frame, and then I just keep buying the screens.
Nice. Yeah, that saves a lot of space too, because I've seen some of those places that do their own, and they have like frames upon frames, and
yeah, totally. It's a super big space.
Takes a lot of space.
Now it wouldn't make any sense for somebody that doesn't live in Monroe, Washington, that only uses like 5 screens. It wouldn't make any sense to buy this frame and screen, because you'd have to figure out how to stretch it on. And it like requires a specific machine for that. So unless there was somebody in your area that had the machine, then and the machine costs like $300. so it's like, you know, it works for me because I live in the same town. But
yeah. I'm thinking of something else that outsource. You could also consider, like, I just started getting some of the little like table signs, and I get them cut by a friend of mine, like laser cut. She has a glow forge, and she does a little wood cutting and laser cutting with some graphics.
Is the glow forge as cool as it seems it is?
It looks pretty sweet. I was there when she cut out my like branded sign for my booth that I use. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. She
got it from when it was originally a Kickstarter. I'm sure they've had
cool.
iterations 2, 3, and 4 since then or whatever. But yeah, so she did some of those for me, and I traded a mug for like a few little signs and stuff. So like she has the knowledge of doing all the technical stuff and the graphics, and
you should see if she can etch one of your mugs.
I don't. Maybe
it etches onto like MacBooks and stuff.
Thing.
Well, get something flat then. Like make a flat thing, like a squared thing.
Maybe.
Or like the inside of a bowl. See if it etches it. Just test it. Test it and report back. Yeah. I think
what else?
Well, I just think that we all have so many things that we outsource to other things, or choose to kind of like take a shortcut on a lot of things. And
you don't even have to see it as a shortcut. Like getting your business cards printed by Vistaprint is not a shortcut. Like
right.
You can decide to do that.
You don't have to stamp all your business cards. Like
I get all my business cards printed at Staples, and then I cut them out. So I do that all myself because I'm paying like 11 cents a sheet, and I get like 30 out of a sheet.
How long does it take you to do it?
Let's see, per card. If I'm doing per card, we'll probably say 20 seconds per card.
Okay.
Total time.
I still think it'd be cheaper for you to buy them from Vistaprint.
It depends on what look I'm going for. I'm just doing black and white. I mean, I kind of sacrifice the color and all of that by doing it printed at Staples, and I print like 25 pages at once, 30 per page, so I have X number of them ready. and then I cut a batch of them. You know, when I have a spare 10 minutes or whatever, I cut a bunch with my
Yeah.
chopper.
I've seen
And
you
then
cut them, and I still think it'd be cheaper to order them from Vistaprint. See,
I
this
like
is a moment. This is a moment where you have
Customers-
to choose your.
I know,
Choose
but it's
your-
like, okay, customers will see the cards too, and they'll be like, those are kind of cool, because like I round off 2 of the corners instead of 4 of the
Right.
corners, and I kind of like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I do that all myself. It's fun.
Yeah. You can choose your battles. I've never made my own cards, nor will I ever. Me and Andrew, a long time ago, or not a long time ago, last summer, were considering getting a sticker machine, like a sticker printer. Mm-hmm. And then after we did some
Is
research.
that like a fancier color printer?
Kind
But
of.
it's like
You like
more permanent.
It prints onto like vinyl that's adhesive and stuff, but then you have to like coat the vinyl if you want them to be waterproof and all these things.
Ew.
So after all of this, after all this research, we were like, wow, buying a sticker printer would be such a good idea, because you could print as many as you wanted whenever you wanted. And by the end of our research, we realized that buying the stickers, even from Sticker Mule, which is absolutely outrageous in pricing, would be cheaper than the labor that it costs to make them ourselves.
Right.
And we were like, dang. So,
Because you're like, Sticker Mule has a business with marketing, with a website that they got to pay for. They got to pay for all this equipment that they have. They have people that work for them. They do all this stuff. That's what you're paying for in the price of a $1.50 sticker or whatever.
right. And if you had the machine that cost 10 to 15K, you'd eventually pay that off. But by the time you paid that off, how many hours would you have working and doing, like, printing the stickers, cutting the stickers, sealing the stickers, doing all this stuff? Like, how many hours would you have invested that it wouldn't make any difference? You would actually spend more money printing the stickers yourself than buying them from Vistaprint.
And then you're like,
Or
but I
not
can also
Vistaprint,
print them
but-
for other people. And then you're basically a mini sticker mule. And you're like, now I have a side business where I'm doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a sticker mule business, or do you want to be a ceramic business that's printing stickers from a business that actually does this?
Right. So yes. Anyway, that's that.
How did you decide to do the t-shirt thing to get the...
He got the t-shirt thing. I didn't get the t-shirt thing. He decided, so my best friend Andrew, we talked about this like a little while back too, but he does ceramic mugs that are like an offshoot of the Ray Dunn mugs, but they're funnier and better. And cone 10 mugs too, so they actually aren't low fire, which suck. Anyway, and then he has been doing different lines of products, and so he really wanted to get into apparel and buying apparel from other people. Same concept as the Sticker Mule situation. I don't know how much of the how much the labor is for a t-shirt, but I would imagine that buying a t-shirt for somebody might be a little bit more than actually creating it yourself. We'll see how he does, but he bought a printer and a heat press, and so he can print t-shirts and sell them on demand through his business. His business is called That's So Andrew. And
he changed it.
He changed it, yeah. He and his partner recently went like separate ways. And so, yeah, so it's called That's So Andrew, and they're like funny stuff, he's got everything.
Yeah.
He's got like Karen mugs, and
Karen.
he's very sassy, so but the printer stuff, it also, he paid like $10K for the printer, I think, and he's actually sharing it with our other friend Bridget, who owns a pizza shop, and she wants to make a bunch of merchandise for her pizza shop, like actual like hoodies and t-shirts and like stuff like that. So so it could turn into something really cool, but also it's just freaking fun. right? For at that
Right.
point, it's just fun. Like it'll hopefully
that-
make a
and that
profit,
is-
but
That is part of his business that has potential for growth.
yeah, exactly.
It's not like if we were to buy that, we have so many things going on that it wouldn't make sense for us. And time in the day, there's not enough time in the day to make that profitable.
And what's different from buying a sticker printer and buying a t-shirt printer is that the t-shirt printer, there's a lot more variables. Like, you can choose the t-shirt, the sweatshirt, the hat, anything that you're choosing is up to you. Like if I was going to get a sticker printer, it's going to all be the same stuff. It's going to be all the same paper eventually at the end of the day. And he's got a lot more control over what articles of clothing he wants to use. He can print masks, he can print socks. It doesn't really matter. It's like unlimited. So that's kind of cool. But is there something else that you outsource or that you don't really think about?
I mean, if we kind of relate it to the podcast, I don't do everything on the podcast. Becca does editing. I do some Instagram stuff. We record together. We have our own,
Yeah.
That's mini, but
well,
I do some of the stuff on the
we do use a hosting site that a lot of people host podcasts like on their own, and they don't use a site. They just do it through their own thing. And we choose to pay money yearly, monthly, whatever, to host it on
they
the site.
have all the storage on there, and then they distribute to the different platforms for us. And
yeah, so that's really nice.
Pretty user friendly and all that.
Yeah.
I guess one other one that we could relate to that I use is Etsy. I mean, I pay money to Etsy to list stuff on there. Yeah. I pay money when I sell something. I'm paying a fee, and a portion goes to them because they provide the platform for me to sell on, which includes, ways for people to search me. It gives legitimacy and credibility because it's Etsy. It's a bigger business. They get ways for me to easily author listings behind the scenes. They have a nice shipping integration. They have reviews built in. All this stuff. That's what I'm paying for. Yeah. So
also like molds and stuff. If you use R forms, pottery forms,
GR forms.
Sorry, GR forms. If you use those, or like I make my own molds. Using molds for hand building, like doing it over and over. My employee does the hand building for me, a lot of hand building for me. Ooh. I forgot to close my window today when we did our thing. But, there's like a lot of different small things that we use that we don't even realize we're saving time on. I use cookie cutters and pizza cutters instead of cutting around bats, and it saves me a bunch of time because it creates a perfect circle every time, and they're the same size, and I don't have to think about it. That's really nice.
Yeah, that thing cost you like $15 once or $50 once or whatever it was. And
well, the biggest one cost me $50. That was a hard pill to swallow, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, you can sell a plate for, how much do you sell that plate for?
The big one?
Yeah.
I haven't sold one retail yet. I refuse to comment on how much I sell it for wholesale because it's way too little. But, but retail, I'll probably sell them for $75. They're
nice.
Huge.
So that'll pay for itself pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some loss in there, and that's probably why the cost is so high, and it takes up a lot of space. And
yeah.
There's been some experiments with how to actually get it to work right.
Yes. Yes, I had to fire the kiln at a certain rate and all these things, and it was very annoying. But, yeah, they're not my favorite thing to make, but they are what I make.
Oh my gosh, I didn't tell you. I met one of my goals this weekend for the year.
What?
I sold a piece for over $100. I mean, I did a week ago too, but at my show this past weekend, I sold a carved vase for $150.
Wow.
And then I sold the matching pair of it like a week and a half ago to somebody. I was just thinking about that because you mentioned the price of that piece, and I was like, that's close to $100. And I was like, oh, I had a goal in 2019 to sell one piece for more than $100, and I did not meet that. But this year I did, because I just sold 2 pieces for $150 each. Pretty sweet.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Can you hear
Somebody's
those
talking
people
outside the window. I can kind of hear it a little bit. You're like, what's going on down there?
Well, we're almost done anyway. We should probably scoot. We're almost
Yeah.
in an hour. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for listening.
I hope that was informative. I don't know if it was or not.
We'll find out.
We'll find out, I guess. Okay. Later.
All right. Thanks. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you could find the podcast at Wheel Talk Podcast, or you could find myself at RD Ceramics. That's R's in Ryan, D's in Durban, Ceramics.
Or you can find me at 5 Lines Pottery Studio. That's the number 5. And don't forget, share this with your friends, like us on Instagram, and don't forget to write a review. It helps us an awful lot. Thanks.